The Stoics, an ancient academy of powerful philosophy, believed that the greatest strength isn't found in the battles we fight with the outside world, but in the quiet mastery of our inner world. In today's fast-paced, often chaotic world, this wisdom has never been more crucial. Have you ever felt drained, frustrated, or even powerless after dealing with a toxic person? Whether it's a negative colleague, a demanding friend, or a difficult family member, their behavior can chip away at your peace of mind. But what if there was a way to rise above it all? What if you could learn to handle toxic personalities with grace, compassion, and resilience, without letting them disrupt your mental well-being? In this video, I'll share 11 practical, Stoic-inspired strategies that will empower you to navigate toxic dynamics with confidence and conviction. By the end of this video, you'll have a powerful toolkit of ancient wisdom to protect your emotional peace and cultivate a life of balance. So, listen closely to the end, and let's dive into how you can master the art of handling toxic people the Stoic way. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more tips on building mental resilience. Number 1. Accept people as they are. One of the most challenging aspects of dealing with toxic people is the desire to change them. We often believe that if we can just make them see things our way, or if we can somehow fix their behavior, then we can restore peace to the relationship. But the Stoics teach us a profound truth. Accept people as they are, not as you wish them to be. Epictetus wisely advised, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can choose how we respond to them." This acceptance is not about resignation or giving up. It's about recognizing that people's actions and behaviors are a reflection of their own inner struggles, and that we are not responsible for changing them. The only thing we can truly control is how we engage with them. This acceptance is incredibly freeing. It relieves us from the burden of constantly trying to alter others to fit our expectations. When we accept people as they are, we release ourselves from frustration, disappointment, and the emotional turmoil that comes from fighting against reality. Instead of spending our energy trying to mold others, we can focus on how to protect our peace, set healthy boundaries, and respond with grace. When you interact with a toxic person, remind yourself that they may never change. Instead of trying to fix them or make them see things differently, focus on maintaining your own emotional well-being. Approach the situation with understanding and compassion, and make conscious decisions about how much of your energy you're willing to invest. Setting clear boundaries becomes a form of self-respect, ensuring that you don't lose your peace in the process. Imagine a family member who is constantly negative and judgmental about your life choices. Over time, you may have tried to convince them to see things your way, or to stop criticizing you. But no matter what you say or do, they continue to act the same way. The Stoic wisdom here is to accept that this is who they are and that their behavior is not a reflection of you, but of their own worldview. Rather than engaging in endless arguments or feeling resentful, practice acceptance. Set boundaries, limit the exposure to their negativity, and focus on maintaining your own inner peace. This doesn't mean you love them any less. It simply means you've stopped trying to change them. In the workplace, you may encounter a colleague who constantly undermines your work or spreads negativity. It's tempting to try to confront them or to expect them to change, but this often leads to frustration. Instead, accept that they may never behave differently. By practicing this acceptance, you focus on how you can protect your energy and still be effective in your work. Perhaps you set boundaries by politely declining to engage in their gossip or simply redirecting conversations that lead to negativity. The key is to focus on what you can control, your own reactions, rather than trying to change their behavior. Accepting people as they are doesn't mean that you tolerate toxic behavior or let others treat you poorly. Instead, it's about recognizing that you cannot control them, and by letting go of the need to change them, you free yourself from emotional entanglement. By accepting the reality of people's behavior, you open yourself up to a more peaceful and empowered way of interacting with the world. This acceptance brings a sense of inner calm, knowing that you are not responsible for other people's actions, only for how you choose to respond. Number 2, set clear and firm boundaries. The concept of setting boundaries is paramount to maintaining our emotional well-being and peace of mind when it comes to dealing with toxic personalities. The essence of setting boundaries is about taking ownership of your emotional space and protecting your peace. Toxic people thrive on crossing boundaries because they know it leads to emotional chaos and vulnerability. If you want to protect your energy, you must be clear about what is acceptable and what isn't. Boundaries are necessary because they allow you to define where your emotional space begins and where it ends. When we fail to set boundaries, toxic people often step in and take control of that space. This can lead to feelings of frustration, resentment, and a loss of self-worth. The Stoic response is to be proactive rather than reactive. By setting clear boundaries, you are essentially protecting your emotional sovereignty and refusing to let others dictate how you feel. Be specific about your limits and communicate them clearly. Don't leave your boundaries up for interpretation. When a toxic person crosses a line, calmly and firmly let them know what behavior is unacceptable and make it clear that there will be consequences if they persist. For example, you could be dealing with a coworker who constantly interrupts your work to gossip about the other coworkers or complain about irrelevant topics. You've allowed this behavior to go on for a while, but it's starting to drain you. It's time to set a boundary. The next time they approach, you can calmly say, "I'm focusing on a project right now, so I can't talk right at the moment. Let's catch up later if you need to talk about something work-related." This statement is clear and polite and sets the expectation that their negativity is not welcome during your focused work time. Set your boundaries and enforce them consistently. If a toxic person pushes against your limits, repeat your boundaries calmly and assertively. Don't feel the need to justify or apologize for them. Remember, you are protecting your peace, and that is always a worthy cause. Let's say you've set a boundary with a friend who tends to ask for too many favors without reciprocating anything in return. They might try to ask you again, testing your resolve. Rather than feeling guilty, simply reaffirm your boundary. I've already explained that I'm unable to take on any more commitments right now. I hope you understand. When you stay consistent, they will start to respect your limits. Ultimately, setting boundaries is a form of self-respect. It's about recognizing your own worth and protecting your emotional space so that you can lead a life of purpose, peace, and clarity. The Stoics understood that we cannot control the behavior of others, but we can control how we respond and how much access we give them to our emotional lives. By setting and maintaining boundaries, you create a clear space in which you can focus on your own growth, values, and emotional well-being. This allows you to be the master of your emotions, rather than letting others dictate how you feel. So remember the words of Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Setting boundaries is one of the most powerful ways to protect that internal strength and create a life of peace, free from the influence of toxic people. Boundaries are not just about saying no to others. They are about saying yes to yourself, your values, your peace, and your self-respect. Number 3, engage in emotional detachment. Let's dive into the concept of emotional detachment, one of the most powerful tools from Stoic philosophy. As Epictetus wisely said, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Toxic people often act in ways that trigger us emotionally. They might criticize, belittle, or manipulate us. But here's the key. Their behavior doesn't have to control your emotions. You have the power to separate your emotional state from theirs. This doesn't mean ignoring your feelings or suppressing your emotions. It means recognizing that you can choose how to respond, regardless of what others do or say. The first step in emotional detachment is awareness. When a toxic person begins to provoke you, take a moment to pause and notice how your body and mind are reacting. Are your heart rate and breathing increasing? Do you feel your emotions rising? This is a natural response to external stimuli, but it's important to recognize that this reaction doesn't define who you are. It's simply a physiological response. You can choose not to let that initial impulse dictate your actions. Suppose you're dealing with someone who constantly gives off passive-aggressive responses, or even outright criticizes you offensively. It can be easy to feel hurt, angry, or resentful, especially when these comments touch on personal values. But instead of getting swept up in the emotion of their words or actions, try detaching by reminding yourself that their opinion is theirs, not a reflection of your worth. Say to yourself, "This is their perspective, and it does not have any power over my emotional state." This mental shift can protect your peace and prevent unnecessary conflict. Think of your emotional state as a pond. The actions of a toxic person are like stones being thrown into the water. At first, there are ripples, and the pond may become disturbed. But over time, if you remain centered, the water will settle and peace will return. The same happens when you detach from the toxic person's behavior. Your emotions may fluctuate in the moment, but by practicing mindfulness and emotional awareness, you allow those ripples to calm, bringing you back to a state of inner peace. Emotional detachment isn't about being cold or indifferent. It's about understanding that you can observe your feelings without letting them control you. By practicing detachment, you're not denying yourself the right to feel, but you're refusing to let someone else dictate your emotional state. This gives you power over your inner peace and allows you to stay calm in the face of chaos. In essence, emotional detachment is a form of emotional maturity. It's about becoming less reactive to the behavior of others and more intentional in how you respond. With practice, it allows you to handle toxic people with a calm, collected mind, ensuring they don't have the power to steal your peace. Number 4, embrace the power of silence. In a world full of noise, constant chatter, and emotional turbulence, silence can be one of the most profound and powerful tools for maintaining inner peace. The Stoics understood the importance of silence as a way to maintain clarity, emotional distance, and wisdom. Epictetus in his teachings emphasized the value of silence when he said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." In the face of toxic people, silence becomes not just a tool of avoidance, but a conscious choice to preserve our mental and emotional energy. When we engage in conversations with toxic individuals, we often find ourselves drawn into their emotional vortex. We may try to defend ourselves, explain our position, or engage in heated exchanges. But in these situations, silence can be more powerful than words. Instead of responding impulsively or reacting emotionally, silence creates a space for reflection and detachment. It allows you to listen, process, and decide the best course of action, instead of being swept away by the chaos of the moment. Silence also serves as a form of self-control. It's easy to get caught up in a back and forth with a toxic person, but choosing silence is a demonstration of your ability to control your reactions. It's a conscious decision to not give the toxic person any power over your emotional state. Imagine a heated argument with someone who is known for provoking others. Instead of responding in kind, you remain silent. You simply listen to their complaints or accusations and resist the urge to defend yourself. The silence gives you space to stay calm and control your emotions. Eventually, the person will tire of the one-sided conversation, and you'll preserve your peace by not engaging in the drama. Make silence a regular practice in your interactions with toxic people. Instead of offering a reaction to every provocation, challenge yourself to take a moment of pause. Use this time to check in with yourself. What do I need in this moment? Do I need to speak, or would silence serve me better? Resist the urge to respond immediately. Instead, take a deep breath and observe the situation. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? What do I want to achieve with my words? If your response would only feed the negativity or escalate the situation, choose silence instead. In time, you'll find that silence can protect your peace and keep you from getting caught in a toxic cycle. In a group setting where someone is spreading negativity or gossip, use silence as a powerful way to remove yourself from the drama. Instead of joining in, simply remain quiet. Your silence can set a powerful example for others, showing that you won't participate in toxic behavior. Over time, people will begin to recognize your emotional boundaries and respect your choice to remain detached from unnecessary conflict. Silence is more than just the absence of sound. It is a deliberate, conscious practice that allows you to create space between your reactions and the stimuli around you. In a world filled with noise and conflict, silence can be your refuge. By embracing silence, you master the art of emotional control, preserve your energy, and protect your peace. As the Stoics knew, it's not about saying everything that comes to mind. It's about choosing wisely when to speak and when to be still. So next time you face toxicity, remember that your silence can be your most powerful response. Number 5. Detach from the need for approval. One of the most liberating lessons from Stoic philosophy is the ability to detach from the need for approval from others. In a society that often values external validation, it's easy to become trapped in the cycle of seeking approval from toxic people, whether it's from a controlling boss, a judgmental friend, or a family member who never seems satisfied. However, the Stoics teach us that true peace and freedom come from within. As Marcus Aurelius wisely put it, the opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject. In other words, your worth is not determined by the approval or disapproval of others. The only approval you need is your own. When we seek validation from toxic people, we hand over our emotional power to them. Their approval becomes the measure of our self-worth. However, this is a recipe for constant frustration and can lead to seasons of depression. Toxic people often set unreasonable standards or manipulate situations to make you feel like you're never good enough. By detaching from the need for their approval, you regain control over your sense of self. You begin to understand that your value is intrinsic, not dependent on what others think or how they treat you. Start by identifying the toxic people whose approval you feel you need. Is it a parent who constantly criticizes your career choices? A partner who always makes you feel like your efforts aren't enough? Once you recognize where the need for approval arises, practice consciously detaching from it. One simple way is to remind yourself, their opinion does not define my worth. Take a moment to affirm your values and self-worth, independent of external judgment. In a personal relationship, you may have a friend or family member who frequently criticizes your life choices, whether it's your career, your relationships, or your lifestyle. You may have spent years seeking their approval, trying harder to make them happy. But now you recognize that their opinions come from a place of control or insecurity. Instead of reacting defensively or trying to justify your decisions, practice detachment. Say to yourself, I don't need their approval to be confident in my choices. This mental shift helps you detach from the emotional weight of their judgment and reinforces your own self-trust. The real strength of detaching from the need for approval lies in the shift from external validation to internal validation. When you depend on others for approval, you place your emotional well-being in their hands. But when you validate yourself, you take back your power. You affirm your choices, actions, and worth from within, regardless of how others perceive you. This is the essence of Stoic resilience, aligning your actions with your values, not with the expectations of others. To practice internal validation, set small, achievable goals aligned with your values. After accomplishing each goal, acknowledge a success internally, rather than seeking external praise. This builds a foundation of self-confidence, so when toxic people try to tear you down, their words won't have the same impact. Detaching from the need for approval is a liberating practice that allows you to reclaim your emotional independence. It is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, helping you cultivate self-respect, self-validation, and emotional resilience. By no longer relying on toxic people for your sense of worth, you free yourself from their influence and empower yourself to live authentically. Let go of the need for external approval and embrace the power of self-acceptance and internal validation. When you do, you will find that your peace, confidence, and self-worth no longer depend on the whims of others, but on your own understanding of who you are. Number 6. Avoid the temptation to retaliate. In the face of toxic people, one of the most natural impulses is the desire to retaliate, to strike back, defend yourself, or get revenge. After all, how can you stand by and let someone wrong you without responding in kind? This is a very human reaction, and it's easy to fall into the trap of seeking vengeance or at least standing up for yourself in ways that escalate the conflict. However, the Stoics offer us a different path, one that seeks peace, emotional mastery, and long-term resilience. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. In this, we are reminded that responding to toxicity with more toxicity only perpetuates harm. By choosing not to retaliate, we rise above the conflict and retain control over our emotional state. Retaliation is a natural reaction, but it often leads to a vicious cycle. The more we retaliate, the more we become entangled in the negativity of others. We may feel temporarily justified in our actions, but in the long run, retaliation only reinforces the toxicity of the situation. It can escalate conflicts, damage relationships, and drain our emotional energy. This is precisely what the Stoics warned against. By retaliating, we allow ourselves to become reactive, rather than proactive. We relinquish control over our emotions and allow others to dictate how we feel. When you retaliate, you're not acting from a place of strength or wisdom. Instead, you're responding out of anger, hurt, or frustration, emotions that are temporary and often based on an incomplete understanding of the situation. In contrast, the Stoic approach encourages us to rise above these emotions. When you feel the impulse to retaliate, pause and take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, what will retaliation achieve? Will it make the situation better or worse? Most of the time, retaliation only worsens the emotional turmoil and gives the toxic person more power over your emotional state. Instead of reacting immediately, take a step back, breathe, and choose a response that aligns with your values and long-term peace. If retaliation doesn't contribute to a positive outcome, it's often best to hold your tongue and refuse to engage in the cycle of negativity. Consider a situation where a colleague spreads false rumors about you at work. The natural impulse may be to retaliate, perhaps by confronting them angrily or spreading rumors in return. However, responding with anger or vengeance will only escalate the situation, potentially damaging your reputation and causing further conflict. Instead, choose not to retaliate. Calmly address the situation with facts and professionalism, and let the toxic behavior fade into insignificance. By taking the high road, you maintain your integrity and prevent the conflict from growing. In a situation where a toxic person tries to provoke you, maybe someone who intentionally brings up painful past events, it may feel natural to retaliate by bringing up their shortcomings and embarrassing failures. However, this only fuels the toxic dynamic. Instead, choose restraint. You could say, I prefer not to revisit the past. Let's focus on moving forward. By holding back your urge to retaliate, you remain in control of the situation and prevent unnecessary conflict from arising. The true strength of avoiding retaliation lies in emotional mastery. It is easy to act impulsively, especially when someone has wronged us. However, responding to toxicity with emotional restraint is a powerful demonstration of inner strength. When we choose not to retaliate, we assert control over our emotions, refusing to be dictated by anger, frustration, or hurt. We maintain the clarity of mind needed to respond thoughtfully, rather than react impulsively. In this way, we protect our mental and emotional well-being. Avoiding the temptation to retaliate doesn't just bring immediate peace. It offers long-term benefits for emotional resilience and well-being. When we choose not to retaliate, we develop emotional intelligence and wisdom. We stop reacting out of hurt or anger and instead respond thoughtfully, keeping our peace intact. In doing so, we build mental and emotional strength, becoming less vulnerable to external negativity and less prone to reacting impulsively. Over time, this practice builds our capacity to navigate toxic dynamics with greater ease and poise. Number 7. Develop the habit of empathy. Empathy is often regarded as one of the most powerful tools for navigating toxic relationships, and the Stoics understood this well. Stoicism teaches us the importance of mastering our own emotions, and it encourages us to engage with the world around us in a way that is both compassionate and wise. Developing the habit of empathy allows us to understand the perspectives of others, especially toxic people, without letting their negative emotions affect our own peace. Empathy is not about just hearing others. It's about truly understanding their struggles and perspectives. When dealing with toxic individuals, it's easy to fall into the trap of judgment and resentment. However, empathy can serve as a bridge between their negativity and your peaceful response. Instead of reacting with frustration or anger, empathy allows you to pause and consider the reasons behind their behavior. People who exhibit toxic traits often do so because they are dealing with their own pain, insecurities, or unresolved issues. Understanding this deeper context doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps you respond with compassion instead of conflict. Imagine a scenario where your romantic partner becomes unexpectedly irritable or distant. Your immediate reaction might be to feel hurt or frustrated, but rather than escalating the conflict by confronting them angrily or withdrawing emotionally, you decide to step back and practice empathy. You consider that they might be stressed about work or facing personal challenges they haven't yet shared with you. By offering them understanding and asking, "Is something bothering you? How can I support you?" Instead of reacting negatively, you create space for open communication and deepen the emotional connection between you. This empathy helps you navigate the moment with care and prevents unnecessary tension. When a toxic person's behavior triggers a strong emotional reaction in you, pause and reflect. Why might they be acting this way? Ask yourself questions like, what's happening in their life that could be influencing their behavior? What pain or insecurity might they be projecting onto others? By engaging in this thought process, you allow yourself to develop a greater sense of empathy. This doesn't mean excusing toxic behavior, but rather understanding its source, which gives you the ability to respond thoughtfully, rather than reacting out of frustration or anger. When confronted with a toxic person, practice empathetic listening. Instead of thinking about what you will say next, focus on truly hearing what they are saying and understanding their emotions. This active listening shows them that you value their perspective, which can reduce the chances of escalating conflict. By acknowledging their feelings, even if you don't agree with their actions, you create space for more productive, less emotionally charged interactions. The ability to empathize with toxic individuals doesn't mean you are excusing their behavior or allowing yourself to be mistreated. Instead, it's about creating emotional resilience by allowing yourself to stay grounded, no matter what external forces are at play. Empathy enables us to respond thoughtfully, rather than reacting with anger or frustration, thus preserving our inner peace. Empathy also nurtures a sense of emotional maturity. It's easy to get caught up in the negativity of toxic people, but the Stoics remind us that our emotional state should not be dictated by external events. By practicing empathy, we develop the ability to remain compassionate and wise, even when others are acting out of their own emotional turmoil. This emotional balance allows us to engage with others more effectively while maintaining our own peace and well-being. Number 8. Embrace change and let go of what no longer serves you. Stoicism avidly teaches the idea that change is inevitable and, in many cases, necessary for growth. The Stoics understood that we cannot control external events, but we can control how we respond to them. Embracing change, especially when it comes to toxic relationships or environments, is essential for our emotional well-being and personal development. As Marcus Aurelius wisely stated, "The universe is change, life is opinion." What this means is that the only constant in life is change, and our perspective or attachment to certain situations is what often determines our peace. The Stoic philosophy urges us to release the things, people, or situations that no longer align with our values or contribute to our happiness. This is not an easy task, but it is a critical part of emotional resilience and peace of mind. In life, we often encounter toxic people or situations that drain our energy, contribute to our stress, or hold us back from personal growth. These toxic elements may have served a purpose at one point, but as we evolve, we must be willing to let go of anything that no longer aligns with our purpose, values, or mental well-being. It's easy to hold on to relationships or environments out of fear, guilt, or a false sense of obligation, but this only keeps us stuck in unhealthy cycles. Stoicism teaches us that in order to grow and maintain our peace, we must be willing to accept change and release what no longer serves us. Letting go of toxic influences is an act of self-care and self-respect. When we hold on to unhealthy relationships or situations out of a sense of duty or fear of change, we ultimately undermine our own happiness. As Epictetus put it, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. By embracing change and letting go of what no longer serves us, we free ourselves from the emotional burden of toxic attachments and make space for healthier, more fulfilling relationships and experiences. Imagine you're in a romantic relationship where your partner's behavior has become toxic. Maybe they are constantly critical, manipulative, or unsupportive. You may have stayed in the relationship for a long time out of a sense of obligation, thinking you could change them or that you needed to stay because of shared history. However, deep down, you know that this relationship is no longer serving your emotional health. The Stoic approach would be to embrace the change of letting go. This doesn't necessarily mean ending the relationship immediately, but it might involve setting boundaries or seeking therapy to address the toxicity. Ultimately, you recognize that for your own well-being, you must make space for a relationship that nurtures you rather than drains you. When you find yourself holding on to a toxic relationship or situation out of obligation or fear, ask yourself, what is this relationship or situation adding to my life? Is it helping me grow? Or is it holding me back? Am I emotionally drained, or do I feel empowered by it? Reflect on how the situation is affecting your peace of mind, and consider whether it's worth continuing. Sometimes, letting go is not about cutting ties abruptly, but about setting boundaries and gradually distancing yourself from the negativity. This process can be empowering, as it allows you to make space for more positive influences in your life. One of the most common obstacles we face when it comes to letting go of toxic relationships or situations is the fear of change. We become comfortable in the familiarity of certain patterns, even if they are unhealthy. This fear of the unknown keeps us stuck, even when we know deep down that change is necessary for our well-being. Stoicism teaches us to embrace change, not as something to fear, but as an essential part of life. Change is not something that happens to us. It is something we must learn to navigate with grace, knowing that it is necessary for growth. Number 9. Practice resilience and patience. Resilience and patience are two pillars of Stoic philosophy that are essential for maintaining inner peace, especially when dealing with toxic people. Resilience refers to the ability to withstand adversity and bounce back stronger, while patience allows us to endure discomfort without reacting impulsively. Together, these qualities form a powerful combination for handling difficult situations, including toxic relationships and challenging environments. As Marcus Aurelius once said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This quote encapsulates the Stoic mindset. Challenges and obstacles aren't roadblocks. They are opportunities to practice resilience and patience, transforming adversity into growth. When toxic people or Situations create stress, frustration, or emotional turmoil. The temptation to react quickly, whether through anger, frustration, or avoidance, can be overwhelming. However, Stoicism teaches us that our emotional responses to external events are within our control, and that with resilience and patience, we can maintain our peace despite the challenges that arise. When confronted with a toxic individual or a challenging situation, resist the urge to react immediately. Instead, take a moment to pause and breathe. Allow yourself to process the emotions that arise without acting on them impulsively. Remind yourself that this situation, however unpleasant, is an opportunity to practice resilience and patience. By consciously choosing not to engage in immediate reaction, you gain control over your emotional state and create the space to respond thoughtfully and effectively. Patience allows the situation to unfold naturally, and resilience ensures that you are equipped to handle whatever comes your way with grace and strength. At a family gathering, for example, you might encounter a relative who always brings up sensitive topics or makes passive-aggressive comments that leave you feeling uncomfortable. Instead of allowing their negativity to ruin the event, you practice patience by accepting the fact that this person's behavior is beyond your control. You choose not to engage in their provocations, and instead, you remain calm and composed. By accepting that you cannot change their behavior in this moment, you protect your own peace and enjoy the rest of the time with the people who bring you joy. To develop long-term resilience and patience, set aside time each day for self-reflection. Ask yourself, how did I handle difficult situations today? Did I respond with patience, or did I react impulsively? By reflecting on your responses, you can identify areas for improvement and actively work on strengthening your resilience. Additionally, consider adopting daily practices such as journaling or mindfulness meditation, which can help you stay grounded and present during moments of stress. Resilience and patience are not traits that can be developed overnight. They are habits that require consistent practice. The more we train ourselves to respond with patience rather than impulse, and to build our mental resilience in the face of adversity, the stronger we become. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is that challenges are opportunities to build character. When we face difficult people or situations, instead of resisting them, we should welcome them as opportunities to refine our emotional strength. Every moment of difficulty is a chance to practice patience and resilience, and over time, these qualities become ingrained in our character. Resilience and patience are key Stoic virtues that empower us to navigate toxic relationships and difficult situations with composure, strength, and grace. By practicing resilience, we develop the ability to endure and bounce back stronger from adversity. By practicing patience, we learn to avoid impulsive reactions and respond thoughtfully, protecting our emotional well-being. Together, these virtues help us remain steadfast in the face of challenges, and with time, they become ingrained in our character, allowing us to lead a more peaceful, empowered, and fulfilling life. Number 10. Cultivate gratitude for what you have. Gratitude is one of the most powerful and transformative emotions we can cultivate, especially when faced with toxic people or difficult situations. In Stoic philosophy, gratitude is not about passively accepting the status quo. It is an active choice to focus on what we have, rather than what we lack or what others take from us. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." This mindset encourages us to recognize the value of every moment and every experience, no matter how challenging or painful it may seem at first. When we cultivate gratitude, we shift our perspective from one of scarcity to one of abundance, which helps us maintain emotional balance and resilience, even in the face of toxic individuals. When we are surrounded by negativity, whether from toxic people, challenging work environments, or personal struggles, it's easy to fall into a mindset of lack, resentment, and frustration. We focus on what is wrong, what is missing, and what we wish were different. However, Stoicism teaches us to redirect our attention. Instead of focusing on the toxic people or situations that drain our energy, we are encouraged to turn inward and recognize the many things in our lives that we can be thankful for. This simple shift in perspective has the power to transform our emotional state and fortify our mental resilience. Let's say you have a friend who is consistently negative, critical, or unsupportive. Their toxic behavior can leave you feeling drained, frustrated, and even resentful. Instead of getting caught up in those negative emotions, you can practice gratitude by focusing on the positive aspects of your life, your supportive friends, the personal growth you've experienced, and the lessons you've learned from dealing with difficult situations. By shifting your attention to what is good and abundant in your life, you regain your emotional balance and prevent the toxic person from dictating your emotional state. Gratitude helps you remain centered, regardless of external negativity. By focusing on what we are grateful for, we maintain a strong sense of self and emotional well-being, which prevents toxic individuals from influencing us in unhealthy ways. Gratitude shifts our attention away from the drama and chaos of others, directing it inward to our own blessings and strengths. This practice doesn't make us immune to negative situations, but it helps us respond with more clarity, wisdom, and resilience. Gratitude helps us stay anchored in the present moment, appreciating the good that exists in our lives, regardless of external circumstances. As Marcus Aurelius advised, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. When we focus on gratitude, we elevate the quality of our thoughts and, as a result, our overall experience of life. To integrate gratitude into your daily life, make it a routine. Set aside a few minutes each morning or evening to reflect on what you are grateful for. Over time, this practice will help you cultivate a more positive and resilient mindset. You may even find that, when faced with a toxic person or difficult situation, your first instinct becomes to focus on gratitude, helping you navigate challenges with greater ease and clarity. Gratitude is a powerful tool that can protect our emotional well-being, even in the face of toxic people and difficult circumstances. By shifting our focus from what we lack to what we have, we cultivate a sense of abundance that fortifies us against negativity. Number 11. Cultivate inner peace through reflection. In a world full of distractions, conflicts, and toxic dynamics, the ability to find inner peace is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. Stoic philosophers recognize the importance of inner tranquility as a key to emotional resilience, and they emphasized that peace comes not from external circumstances, but from cultivating a calm, centered mind. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful than your own soul." This highlights the Stoic belief that true peace comes from within, and it is something that no toxic person or external situation can take away from you unless you allow it. By practicing reflection, we can create the mental space needed to find and maintain inner peace, no matter how chaotic the world around us may be. Reflection doesn't just involve thinking about our emotions. It also involves being honest with ourselves about how we're engaging with the world. It's about creating space for mindfulness, where we can observe our thoughts without judgment and develop a deeper understanding of our own minds. Reflection is the practice of taking a step back from external events to gain insight into our internal responses. By reflecting on our emotions, thoughts, and actions, we can better align ourselves with our true values and maintain our inner peace, regardless of the toxicity that may surround us. In a toxic friendship, you might find yourself constantly being drained by a friend who is overly critical or demanding. Instead of reacting with frustration or distancing yourself abruptly, you choose to reflect on the relationship. You think about what this friendship has meant to you and why it has caused you distress. You reflect on the patterns of behavior that trigger negative emotions and ask yourself what you need in order to maintain a peaceful emotional state. By considering your thoughts and feelings, you can come to a more balanced perspective on the friendship and decide how to handle it in a way that protects your inner peace. Whether that means setting boundaries, having an open conversation, or deciding to move on, reflection helps you make choices that prioritize your well-being. A simple yet effective way to begin cultivating inner peace through reflection is by incorporating a daily journaling practice into your routine. Take time each day to write down your thoughts, experiences, and emotional responses to the events that took place. Focus on reflecting not only on what happened, but also on how you reacted and why. This practice helps you gain greater self-awareness, identify patterns in your behavior, and recognize areas where you can improve. Over time, journaling will help you become more mindful of your reactions to toxic situations, allowing you to respond with greater calm and clarity. When we reflect, we also become more aware of our own biases, triggers, and thought patterns. This awareness helps us develop better self-control and enables us to choose more appropriate responses. By consistently practicing reflection, we become less reactive and more proactive, allowing us to approach challenges with a sense of peace and an open mind. When you receive criticism, especially if it feels unfair or harsh, it's natural to feel defensive or upset. Instead of reacting immediately with anger or resentment, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, why does this criticism trigger me? Is there any truth to it? How can I use this feedback for growth? This reflective practice allows you to process the criticism more constructively without being controlled by your emotions. It also enables you to respond with calmness and maturity rather than defensiveness or hostility. In addition to journaling, try setting aside a few minutes each day for quiet contemplation. Find a peaceful space where you can sit in silence and simply observe your thoughts. Don't try to force any specific outcome. Just let your mind flow and observe what comes up. This practice of mindful reflection helps you tune into your thoughts and emotions, allowing you to process them without getting caught in their grip. Over time, you'll develop the ability to detach from negative emotions and maintain a peaceful mindset, even when toxic people or situations arise. As we've explored today, handling toxic people and situations doesn't require us to change others. It requires us to master ourselves. By applying these 13 Stoic-inspired strategies, we can create emotional boundaries, maintain our peace, and even respond with compassion in the face of adversity. Whether it's detaching from the need for approval, cultivating gratitude, or embracing silence, each of these practices empowers us to take control of our inner world and remain centered, no matter the external chaos. Remember, the key to overcoming toxicity lies not in external circumstances, but in our ability to navigate them with wisdom and grace. It's in our power to choose how we react, to respond with resilience, and to live with a sense of purpose that isn't dictated by the negativity around us. Each day offers a new opportunity to practice these Stoic principles and make them a natural part of who we are. If you found these strategies helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and share this video with anyone who could benefit from this timeless wisdom. And of course, subscribe to the channel to continue your journey of self-mastery and emotional resilience. By subscribing, you'll join a community committed to growth, mindfulness, and creating a life of peace and strength. Thank you for being a part of this transformative conversation. Take these lessons with you, apply them in your life, and remember, true power is not in controlling others, but in mastering your own response to the world. Keep reflecting, stay resilient, and continue to grow. I'll see you in the next video.